Welcome to another session of the Black Male Impact. Today we have as guest Dr. Jeffrey Smith, and we are about to have a conversation on um, transformation through intentional impact. But before we get into the conversation today, I would like for those who are here with us to please share this conversation with your network. Again, my name is Dr. Richard A. Cross, and welcome to another part of the series of transformation through intentional impact. And if you're here with us, please share with your connections. I can guarantee you, you will get something of value from conversation. So I'm just going to briefly introduce Dr. Smith. He has over 30 years in the U.S. Navy, which is really commendable. And he's currently Division Chief of the U.S. Secret Service. I'm not going to go in his bio. I will allow him to talk more about his work and the impact that he's currently having, um, in the spaces that he's working in. So without going more into his bio, I just want you all to welcome Dr. Smith to this conversation. So, Dr. Smith, if you don't mind, please share more about yourself with the listeners before we get into the conversation today.
Okay, thank you and good evening. Thanks for this invitation. Thanks for having me here.
Awesome.
So, as you've mentioned, I work in the federal government. I have a doctorate in human resource management. I'm currently serving as the division chief. I have oversight of all hiring for law enforcement hiring as well as non-law enforcement hiring for the Secret Service. Of course, I'm not here on behalf of the Secret Service. I just wanted to put that out there.
Yeah.
My career started many years ago. I went into the United States Navy in 1988, and I served a total of 20 years active, 10 years in the reserves, a total of 30 years. So my retirement was in 2018 officially. Uh, since then, I went into recruitment and staffing, and I've worked diligently over the years in private practice, nonprofit, federal law enforcement, um, and recruitment and staffing, and it's what I enjoy doing. Um, it gives me that fulfillment. So yeah, that's pretty much about myself and my professional background.
Well, hopefully we get to get gain some insight from the experience, in the military and working as a secret service, how challenging it is or how easy it is to recruit,
Hmm.
especially those who sometimes may not see this as an option to get into because. With the Navy, I know it's a little bit more challenging than just the military itself, and sometimes
Right.
even the secret service. But before we get into the conversation that we're going to be having today, which is going to be on personal transformation, leadership, and representation,
Hmm.
which will cover, you being in the Secret Service, as a black male, and how easy or challenging it is for those who may want to get in. Although the conversation is not really about, joining either the military or the Secret Service, but I know individuals, especially young people, when they see you, they may have the aspiration to go on a path, similar to yours. But I want to ask this question: why is it
Yes.
important for Black men to actively mentor the next generation?
So great question. I took a couple of notes here. I believe it is important for Black men to actively mentor the next generation because when you see your vision clearly, you can take action, find purpose, and move towards your goals with clarity and conviction. And what I mean by that is when you're a young boy or a young child and you see someone that kind of looks like you, it gives you that hope. It gives you that that goal and that aspiration that, hey, if you see a black male who perhaps looks successful to you, that gives the child um, it kind of gives them a more hope. It gives them an idea that, hey, I can do that when I grow up.
So,
Whether it's a practitioner or a theorist or a physician, even. Um, it gives them hope when they see us, and it aligns with their goals and their dreams and aspirations.
so I would ask this question: was it someone that you have seen um, in the Navy
Mhm.
that inspired you to want to pursue that career?
Interesting that you'd say that. When I joined the Navy, again, it was 1988, and the military was a lot different back then. So, on my very first ship, which I was stationed in Hawaii, Pearl Harbor, Hawaii, we had one black male officer on a ship with approximately 450 male sailors. Um, and when I saw this gentleman, I said, wow, he's carrying a heavy responsibility being the only black officer on this ship with all of us sailors. And it gave me some hope that if I did the right things, if I pursued a college education, that could be me one day as well. And so I pursued my education. I continued to remain an enlisted sailor, but of course, I reaped the benefits from having a formal education by just seeing him lead and manage sailors on that ship.
And as you stated earlier,
Hmm.
seeing someone who looks like you,
Right.
will give you that hope of possibility of pursuing a career as it did for you. And that's one of the reasons why we're having this conversation now. Not just for us as adults, but
Hmm.
also for the next generation can see through us what's possible. Because there are so many things out there that's saying that we can't do things, we can't achieve certain levels,
Hmm.
but we have so many examples. But a lot of our young people, sometimes don't get to see directly because they
Right.
don't have it in their immediate environment. And so it's great to hear your journey and how you got in.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Man, that's really important because the young people need to know that once they do what they need to do, the possibilities are endless. And
Yes.
and alluded to what you said, with knowing what you want,
Hmm.
did it prevent you from getting involved in activities that you see amongst other young people?
I think that I think once you're focused and you are doing what you need to do, at some point, I mean, you have to have a healthy balance, of course. As a sailor in the Navy, you're traveling, you're going to different ports of call, and you're visiting different places, and you see folks doing certain things that are probably not aligned with your goals. You have to make an adult decision because at that time, whether we know it or not, we're considered adults. I was 17, 18 years old when I went into the Navy, but I was making adult decisions at that time, and the decisions that you make at that age impact you later in life as well. So if you decide to apply yourself, go to school, you reap the benefits later. But if you decide to not do those things and perhaps go down a different path or a path that might lead to negative activity, then you reap the benefits from that as well. So it's just based on your goals, your aspirations, and the direction that you want your life to go.
I think that's a great reminder. I was
Hmm.
listening to a guy a few days ago, and he went into the police force at age 17. He got an
Okay.
injury, and he said he was heading in the wrong direction, but the
Right.
injury saved him because he got someone to talk to him or to talk some sense into him to start doing the things that will help him to go on the path to become a
Mhm.
police officer, because there are certain activities you don't want to get involved in if
Exactly.
that's the path that you choose, and you don't want anything to really prevent you from getting opportunities. So just to shift gear a bit, and I know we will talk more about your journey and the experiences that you have over your course of different careers. So we're going to talk on personal transformation and growth. Can you share a defining moment in your life that sparked your journey toward intentional impact?
So, defining the moment in my life that sparked intentional impact was when I had a conversation. I'm from South Carolina originally, a very small town in South Carolina, and I grew up with my great grandparents, and they were well into their 60s when they took me in. So I was sitting on the front porch with my great uncle, who at that time he was almost 80 years old,
Oh,
and
wow.
I shared with him that I wanted to enlist into the Navy, and and his response was, "Well, that's a good idea," and and he called me Bo. Everybody's name was Bo. He said, "That's a good idea, Bo. If you decide to go in, make sure you stay in as long as you can." And I said, "Wow, I just want to do 3 or 4 years and get what I need and get out." But nevertheless, I decided to make it a full career, um, and it has served me very well. I traveled a lot. I was able to get my education, all of my degrees, paid for through the Navy, through my time serving, and it provided a very, pretty good lifestyle for me. It is a lifestyle that is unique. uh, when we join the military in general, our families serve as well. So it's always great to recognize the family members that serve along with the service member, and in most cases they travel with you as well. So um, it really worked out for me. So to go back to the statement, that's what sparked my journey towards an intentional impact in my life.
Man, that's great. And just to follow up from the intentional impact. Um,
Hmm.
I know you've been out since 2018,
Right.
but have young people in your community see you, and when they find out that's what you have done, does it really encourage them to want to join when they see how you live in and see how you present yourself to your community?
Great question. I actually was a recruiter for the Navy for approximately 15 years of my time in. And even after I retired, I still continue to talk to young people, mentor them. And within the past couple of years, I've actually been successful with recruiting approximately 4 gentlemen into the Navy. One is a commissioned officer, and two of them are enlisted sailors,
Okay.
doing quite well. So it really worked out. You never know as a gentleman with education, sharing and pouring into the next generation, how it may impact you and how it may impact them. Because it's fulfilling for me to see when they complete their basic training or they complete their education, complete all of the requirements to serve, and it gives them the foundation that served me very well. So it's a solid return. I'm actually real thrilled to even share that the information that I shared with them um, is benefiting them. So yes.
That's great. They always said, pouring into others, it's like magic dust. Some is going to come back on you. So, just to see other people doing well from what you share with them, it always gives a good feeling. And they always said, if you feel down, just start helping someone, and then you'll feel better. But I'm going to switch to my next question, which is still on personal transformation and growth.
Mhm.
What daily habits or routines do you practice to ensure you're growing and evolving as a leader?
Great question. The daily habits or routines I practice to ensure I'm growing and evolving as a leader is I ensure that my efforts are aligned with my goals. The reason I say that is oftentimes you hear people say, I really want that big house or I really want that nice car. But what is it exactly that they are doing in order to ensure that they'll get that big house or they'll get that goal of having that nice sports car or whatever it is? You have to pour it into whatever your goals are. And if it means that go back to school and get that certification or go back to school and get that associate's degree or whatever it is, make sure that you do that. Make sure that you're putting in the time, putting in that work that will ultimately, um, pay uh, the money that you're looking for, or you'll reap the benefits that you're, pursuing. Um, Example again, my goal is to be successful as an HR division chief or HR director. In some markets, that's what they would address me as. I have to ensure that my staff has the tools they need to be successful by conducting a needs assessment to identify gaps in business practices and skills gaps. And actually, that's what I've been doing here lately. I started this role back in September, and oftentimes I'm just reviewing our performance as a whole. How are we doing? Are we meeting our objectives? Are we meeting our goals? Does the staff have what they need? Because, you know, we're only as successful as our um, leader, and our leader is only as successful as their staff members are. Your
Good.
staff members are generally will follow you if they feel like you have a vested interest in their success. And I truly believe that I have a vested interest in my team because um, I want to ensure that they have the tools. I want to ensure that they have their individual development plans so that we can ensure I can ensure that they have everything they need. So that way, when it comes time to evaluate their performance, there are no surprises. They have the tools that they need, and they're thrilled. I'm thrilled. The agency is happy because we're meeting our goals and our objectives. And it's all about taking care of people and having a healthy balance.
And that is, I agree with you 100%
Hmm.
on creating the environment for those who you are entrusted to serve to be the best that they can be,
Right.
because once they're being their best as their leader, they make you look good, and
Yeah.
once you look good, the organization looks good. But what I want to get back to, effort aligned with our goals, and I think that is important, especially as Black men in particular, and just people in general. That, once we decide we want something, it could be something tangible or just the impact that we want to make. I agree with you 100% that our effort must be aligned
Yes.
with the goal. We cannot want something and then our actions don't match what we want, because it anybody can have goals,
Yeah, exactly.
but not everyone will do what it takes
Hmm.
to achieve what they want. And I appreciate you sharing that perspective and reminder for all of us, because we all need the reminder at times when we're in pursuit, because things don't always go as planned. But
That's
when we
true.
have things that we make become a part of who we are, we can still do the things to get to, the goal. So I really appreciate that perspective.
Absolutely. I'm going to give you another example too. Because I'm in HR and I'm in the staffing and recruitment industry, um, oftentimes, especially these days in the federal government with agencies downsizing and restructuring and so forth, I hear of people saying, well, hey, I'm looking for a job, I'm looking for new employment. But I'll turn the question around and ask them, well, how many positions have you applied for today? How many positions have you applied for within the last week? And if they are unable to share how many positions they've applied to, um, then their goals are really just goals. Their efforts need to be aligned. So for me, in my position I'm currently in, I applied to 53 jobs within, I would say, 3 months because I gave myself a goal. I said, well, I know that I want a new position. And I know that in order for me to get a new position, I'm really going to have an aggressive approach. An aggressive approach. So I gave myself a goal. I'm going to apply for at least 3 positions a day. So I would get off from work and I would immediately jump out there and see what positions are out there and they fit with my skill sets. And I felt like I was a good fit for their positions. And I got a lot of no's, but then I got a couple of yeses. So again, I stress that to folks that are currently in the federal government, that may be feeling down about the state of the federal government right now. I want them to be encouraged and pick themselves up and start applying, applying, applying. If you feel like you are not being successful, you know, take a look at your resume. I think that's extremely important. Didn't mean to get off the subject, but it's an area that um, I'm passionate about, and it's an area that I've lived because I think it's important.
Yes, I think that's a valid point. Even though you may say you get off
Yes.
topic, but it's on topic because it's with almost everything that we want. We have to you know be aggressive
Hmm.
about it because nothing is really guaranteed, even though the opportunities are out there. Sometimes we have to do more than we'd want to do to get that one thing that we want. And sometimes for us as Black men, it can be a little bit more challenging. What rich research I've stated, sometimes when you're qualified or
Yes.
overqualified, you can come off as threat to individuals. So it can
Hmm.
make it a little bit more difficult to get some of these opportunities that are out there and open, but it's not going to be always easy. So having that mindset and having that approach to be aggressive, I think that's a great reminder.
Yes.
Again, for all of us when it comes to what we want to accomplish, and that leads me to my next question, because when we are going the extra mile, want things to happen, how do you overcome self doubt and limiting beliefs when striving for transformation? This ties perfectly.
Professionally, I tell myself I have worked extremely hard to earn the position that I'm currently in. I have the experience, I have the knowledge, I have the skills, I have the abilities to do this job. I have to tell myself that. Um, sometimes I feel, um, what's that thing called? That syndrome called? I can't even think of it right now. But nevertheless, I think we all have self doubt at times, and I may have it probably more than people may know. Even though I served many years in the military, and I'm supposed to, have this alpha male approach to everything. Again, I come a long way in my career. I actually my very first job was I was 16 years old. I was a student bus driver.
Oh, wow.
I drove a yeah, and I don't think they do that these days, but
Maybe
I
not.
drove a school bus, 54 passenger bus in South Carolina, K through 12, each day. And I was a junior in high school. I did that for 2 years, junior in high school and senior in high school. And I started that level of responsibility because I don't know if you have children or not, but I can't imagine that the parents these days putting their child on a school bus with a 16-year-old.
They may not. They may pull their child from the school.
Exactly. So the thing is, I want to share is that it's important to gain that work ethic early, um, and allow that to continue to be your approach, your passion about being successful, and not allowing anyone that sits at these tables that we may have to sit and attend where we're the only black male at those tables, uh, as well as perhaps even the only doctor at that table.
Correct.
Um, I think that it's important for us to know and reinforce that we are qualified to do the job. Um, and again, going back to my personal career, enlisting in the Navy and working my way up the ranks from a seaman recruit, which is the same as a private in the Army, all the way up to completing my doctorate degree about 3 years ago. I've come a long way, and I've had some very strong leaders and strong mentors along the way that helped me as well.
Well,
Um,
no,
yes, I'm
no,
sorry.
no, no. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah,
You're
I was just saying, I've had some very strong mentors and leaders, and I think that it's extremely important to latch on to mentors and leaders that have your best interests and folks that, in your definition of of success and what that looks like. Uh, one that comes to mind right now, he's an Army colonel, served 36 years, almost 40 years of service, and he's someone that I'll call immediately, even today when I run into a situation where I feel like, let me talk to Colonel such and such, and kind of get a better understanding of how I should approach this conflict or this issue that I may be dealing with professionally. And it's really nice to be able to bounce things off of someone that more than likely has walked that path that you're walking.
I
So,
think, yeah, I think, you shared some really valuable points, especially dealing with self doubt and limiting beliefs. As you
mhm.
talk about initially, self talk, you talk
Imposter
yourself.
syndrome. That's what I was thinking of. I couldn't
Oh,
think
yeah,
it. I'm
yeah,
sorry, sir. Imposter syndrome.
yeah, yeah.
I
So,
I had that, and I wanted to share that uh, imposter syndrome. That's the syndrome I was thinking of, because
okay.
although I have multiple degrees, I have many years of experience. Sometimes I find myself, feeling as though I'm not good enough or inadequate. And I'm glad that you invited me on this platform to share that, um, to remind little black boys and grown black men that look like me, we are good enough. So,
Man, that is an important reminder.
yes, sir.
Because especially if you make a few attempts and you don't get the opportunity,
Hmm.
sometimes you start to wonder if I'm good enough. Is it because I'm not good enough? That's why I'm not getting the opportunity. And so it's a great reminder. And especially, you put in the work. So we're good enough. It's not always that it's not because we are not good enough, we don't get the opportunity. Sometimes we are too good for the opportunity. And
Yeah.
not everyone wants someone who they think will outshine whoever is already there at the table. So it's not all. So I'm really glad that you shared that. But as you stated in the initial part of answering the question
Hmm.
about the self-talk, make sure what we say to ourselves
Yes,
is positive, and to
absolutely.
have that strong work ethic. And it doesn't matter where we are, we should always display, that strong work ethic. I like to remind people that, we are always representing ourselves. It doesn't matter the environment, it doesn't matter the thing that we are doing. We are always representing ourselves, and someone is always watching. And it could be that a person to open the door to the next great opportunity.
Right.
But the next thing, as we all take this journey of life, to have mentors and leaders, and not only mentors and leaders, which you stated, it couldn't be said any better. Individuals who have our best interests at heart.
Yes. Yes, sir.
I think that is important, not just mentors, are not just leaders, but
Hmm.
those who have our best interests at heart. I don't think that can be stressed too much,
Right.
because we don't want to connect with the wrong people, especially when we have aspiration to do great things. So I really appreciate you, sharing and bring that to the
Hmm.
surface, because we all look for mentors. but we want to have those who have our best interests. I appreciate that.
Right.
I know you had mentioned that these mentors played good roles in your journey
Yes.
and what you're pursuing, but I'm still going to ask this question: what what role has mentorship specifically or guidance played in your professional and personal growth?
Okay. So great question. I tell you a little bit more about myself and my background, my upbringing. Um, Growing up with your great grandparents who raised you, we grew up. I grew up in a small town in South Carolina, and we didn't have a whole lot.
Yeah.
And as a kid, you really don't know at that time what you have and what you don't have. You don't know that you might be considered below the poverty level because we didn't have indoor plumbing. We had like a tin roof on the house. We had to get water from a well,
Wow.
chop wood every day. So we didn't have, central heating and central air. We didn't have cable TV and all this other great stuff that, some amenities these days is just normal, you know. So it's interesting. We had an outhouse, and I know folks, most of the young people these days wouldn't understand my background, but these are the things that I've lived. So when you ask the question throughout my personal life, I've had friends and family members that poured into me on many levels, whether it's finances, relationships, as well as pursuing my education. And because of my background and what I lived as a child growing up all the way to my 18th birthday and going into the military, I made a decision that I want better. Um, I always want to be in a place where finances are not challenged. I want to be able to give back as well. So, because I am from a small town in South Carolina, within the past 6 years, I went back home to South Carolina and I visited a little church there. And I said, wow, this little church that I grew up in is still here. And I noticed that there are a lot of young people in that church. And I wanted to be able to give back to the community. And so I established a college fund in my name. Um, and I've been able to send, this will be the sixth annual Dr. Jeffrey J. Smith Scholarship. Um, this will be the sixth year that I've been able to send young people that look just like you and I to college. And I'm
Wow.
pretty proud of that because of my background and what I grew up having very little. Um, you know, it definitely it gives me a sense of reward because when you get that information that the young person has been accepted to the college of their dreams and they don't have to worry about this portion of their tuition,
Yeah.
it's a pretty good feeling.
Yeah, man. Just sometimes, just being in college, a small check sometimes
Right. Every
makes,
little bit helps.
oh yeah, make you feel so good,
Mhm.
especially as you mentioned, don't have to worry about, the necessary things that you may need.
Right.
And that can help you to focus more on your academics. So I know what that feels like. I know what getting support feels like. So really great. That you're doing that,
Mhm.
and once we stay humble, and once we stay and remember, where we start and how we start. I think it makes life a bit more meaningful,
Mhm.
because we start to live from that place, not from where we are, although this is where we are and this is what we accomplish. But when we
Yes.
live from the place, that humble beginning, it helps on the journey, because we can get to a point where we start to forget, but it's always great to have that tie to that humble beginning. as we go on the journey. It makes us a little bit more grateful, especially when you start to see the things that you have currently. So I appreciate you sharing your journey and the impact that you're having in the community. And as Black men, that is something that we should be doing.
Hmm.
As I like to remind us, and even myself, that it's important that we live as we climb. We are responsible to change our communities, because we can't depend solely on everyone else
Right.
when we have the opportunity or have been blessed with opportunities to change our lives. Yes, we make the decisions, but
Hmm.
there are people out there who have made great decisions, but they're still not in a position to be of help
Yeah.
to their community. So I
Yeah.
appreciate the work that you're doing.
Absolutely. And one of the young people, because uh, who received the scholarship is graduating in May. I was really excited to get that news. And he's already got an internship lined up with a law enforcement agency. So he's excited. I'm excited. His parents are excited. And it works, So just like you said, giving back and pouring into the next generation, um, that's my legacy. That's what I want to do.
And this is great, and I'm going to really take a note of this,
Hmm.
because I have something coming up in the summer, and that can also be a part of um, choosing the black males who are making an impact,
Yeah.
because I want to acknowledge black men who are making an impact in their community. That can also be a part of making the decision to highlight, because once we are highlighted, right, on the things that we're doing, it's
Right.
not just about us who are doing the work or who are being acknowledged for the work, but those out there who are not yet doing what they can do will see someone being acknowledged for making an impact in their community, which can also become an inspiration for
Right.
those who have the resources but may have not been thinking about it, to start thinking about it and how beneficial it can be for an individual to see themselves doing something different for themselves and their family. So I'm going to make note of that, because I think that is important as we go forward as black men, to make sure we are lifting as we climb. Which
Absolutely.
is my next question, and to how the time is going. I know we're not going to get through all the questions
Okay.
today, but we're going to see. And if we have to have another conversation some other time, we will. So
Okay.
I'm going to switch from personal transformation to community and collective impact.
Okay.
So the question to you is, what do you believe are the biggest challenges Black men face today, and how can we address them?
As a black man, that's an interesting question because going back to my hometown again, um, it's a small town. I think we have one traffic light there, so that kind of gives you an idea. And the median income is less than $50,000 a year, even today.
Wow.
So, um, so the fact that I'm able to pour into the next generation that's there, I always want to ensure that they understand that there's more out there, and their dreams don't have to be redirected, um, which is what happened to me and a lot of other people of color that went through that same high school, which we only have one high school in the area.
Wow.
Um, but there was a guidance counselor there that was redirecting black and brown children from pursuing college education. Um, you know, that person even redirected us from going into the military. It's almost like they had a relationship with the local laborers and textile mill that was there, because a lot of them actually were redirected from their hopes and dreams to go to the textile mill. And there's nothing wrong with working in the textile mill industry, but if that's not what a child wants to do, I think that it's important to counsel, if you're position as a guidance counselor, I think that it's important to provide counseling in that area. But as a black man, we are viewed as, I would say, inferior, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Um, and although we may be the best qualified to do the job, we're not looked upon as such. Example, I was in a meeting last week, as recent as last week, I was, and a member of the executive team referred to me as Mr. Smith. And we've been in meetings before. I thought to myself, I can't believe this is happening to me. I thought to myself, I've been here for a while, and most people know me as Dr. Smith. But I immediately corrected the gentleman and let them know that I'm Dr. Smith, and I would prefer to be addressed as Dr. Smith. He corrected it, but in my mind, I thought to myself, was that just a misstep, or was he just trying to remind me that you're still a black man? Well, I don't need to be reminded of that. I know for a fact I'm going to always be black. And especially growing up where I'm from in South Carolina, especially growing up in the military when the military was a lot different when I joined in the 80s. So, and then I was in the Navy. So that kind of should give you a little bit of my background as well.
Yeah.
So I've had to deal with discrimination, you know, um, in high school. I've had to deal with discrimination in the workplace. I've had to deal with discrimination throughout my military career. But I didn't let that stop me. I think that it's important for us as black men to know that every decision that we make will impact us, whether it's a positive or a negative decision. And we have to live with that.
Man, that example is so powerful in the sense that, today we still
Hmm.
have to deal with where individuals look at us as inferior,
Right.
despite our great work, despite what we have contributed to society, despite, what we have created.
Hmm.
And sometimes, we have to acknowledge that it is intentional, that, we are conditioned to
Yeah.
see ourselves in this light. And that's why it's important, that yes, we remind the world, but
Hmm.
also to tell our story the way it should be shared with the world. Because not just us have been conditioned to think about ourselves in this light, the world have been conditioned to think about black people, black men in a certain light. So the misconception and the misrepresentation is in the minds of others. So it's on us sometimes to help them to realize, no, this is not what it is.
Yeah.
That's what you may have been conditioned to believe. But no, we have, break those barriers long time ago. Go ahead.
And again, break those barriers a long time ago. It's important to me. It's important to me because of where I'm from and because of the way that I grew up, with education being. I wouldn't say that my personal education wasn't denied, but going to a guidance counselor as a child in school, and you're telling them that I would like to go to college, and they're telling you, well, I don't think that you're college material. Oh, okay, what about the military? I don't think that you're military material either. Why don't you look at going to this textile mill and working there? And I
Yeah,
think that it's important. It's important to note that I didn't allow that guidance counselor to stop me from pursuing my goals. And my goal was to go into the military and be successful and finish up and become uh, a college educated black man. And I am the first in my family to
man,
finish my doctorate degree.
that is commendable. And
Right.
as you said, a lot of the young people your age back then, they were redirected to something that they didn't want. And that's why it's great to have individuals in schools
Yes.
that have the best interests of the young people, all students.
Hmm.
That's why it's important, and that's why with a heavy recruiting for more black men to be in education, because they will be more likely to direct the young people on the path that they want more than redirect them from something that's going to change their life, especially education and even the military. Because I do really think the military, the army, does have provide a great opportunity for
Hmm.
young people, not just the structure but also to develop as individuals. But you have some people there still, even today, 2025, that still
Yes.
look at us as less than.
Hmm.
It is sad, but we have proven. So it's just those who may not realize and fall to the misrepresentation of who we are, and thinking that's who we are. So my next question to you: how do we shift from individual success to collective advancement in our communities?
Um, Shifting from individual success to collective advancement, I believe we must do things to stand out and set us apart. Um, Again, going back to my college scholarship that I established, um, because I realized that the younger generation needed resources to support their dreams of pursuing a college education. So, going and allowing yourself to do things that are going to set you apart, to stand out, getting that extra certification, getting that extra degree, going above and beyond, always looking for that next level up. I strongly believe that that is what success and in terms of the collective advancement in our communities. Again, I haven't lived in that town in South Carolina since the '80s, but I haven't forgotten,
Correct.
and I think that's extremely important too. So being able to give back to your community it is essential for allowing us to grow as a culture. And when you look at our counterparts, oftentimes they join together and support each other.
Correct.
And I would like to be able to say one day that our culture does the same thing. I can't honestly say that right now, but when
Correct.
I look at others, they join together and they support each other.
Yes, that is something that you really look forward to, especially if you are about making a difference and
Yes.
helping the next generation. But we have been conditioned to have this. I think it's a distrust with each other. Maybe some of the things that there that cause us not to be of supportive to each other, especially doing something that you're doing.
Hmm.
You should encourage someone. Say, you know what, Dr. Smith, let
Hmm.
me join in and support and become a part of this initiative. How did you do it? But as you stated, doing things that make you stand out
Yes.
will also become an encouragement to others. It may take time for someone else to realize the importance of it. Maybe after this graduation, this coming May, of
Right.
the first recruit, the
Hmm.
first person you gave the scholarship to will
Right.
inspire others to join forces, because there are other individuals with the potential to go on that academic journey, but they may not have the financial support or the support to go. So
Hmm.
hopefully, after this first student graduate, someone may step up and say, "Man, let's get two more students or three more students to be a
Hmm.
part of this journey." But I appreciate you stating that, for us to stand out can also help to pull individuals together.
Yeah. It's also, again, oftentimes you hear children are more successful when they come from a two-parent home, and I guess I'm a living example that it doesn't necessarily take a two-parent home in order for a child to be considered what some would say successful. Um, but I think that give them the tools, give the child the tools, and allow them to utilize the tools, to apply the tools to pursue their goals of being successful. So that's my philosophy when it comes to that.
Man, there are so many examples of individuals who haven't been in a two-parent
Right.
household, but sometimes no one knows about, their upbringing,
Yeah.
and individuals too will look at you where you are, and
Hmm.
before even inquiring into, your journey, your upbringing, they may think, you start off with everything you need to be successful because they're looking at the end result, not
Right.
looking at, where you start and how easy it could have been a different story.
But they have no idea that we had an outhouse. They have no idea that we had, you know, a pot-belly stove in the middle of the floor. They have no idea that we had a chamber pot for urine. They have no idea. So these are the things that I've lived.
And that's why, again, it's important, that the story, not just the success but the struggles before the
Right.
success, because they do see the success but they don't understand the resilience that it takes to get to the point of,
Hmm.
where, you are and many others are today, which leads me to my next question.
Okay.
Can you share an experience where you helped, well, this kind of tied, which you already shared, uplift or empower someone, and
Yeah.
what impact it had? All right, I'll just go to the young man that's about to graduate.
Sure.
What have he shared with you that, really encourage you to keep going on the journey to do more work?
I
Let us say.
I I think getting his education is awesome. And he already has an internship lined up when he completes the degree. I think that's exceptional. But I'll talk about the other young man that I helped get into the Navy. He was not from the United States, so he came over on I think it's called a resident alien, but he was originally from Brazil, so he had to learn English as a second language. So not only was he challenged with that, learning English to go into the United States Navy, but he also became one of the most successful sailors in his class. He graduated at the top of his class from basic training. He graduated from his top of his class from his technical training school, and then he promoted up the ranks so quickly. And I mean, he's just doing exceptionally well. I'm super super proud of him. So that again is talking with the young people, pouring into them, uh, giving them the tools that they need to be successful, and just kind of sharing them some of your testimonials. You never know how these young folks will pick up on some of the seeds that you're planting with them, and then watching them grow and flourish. So again, it's rewarding for me because it empowers the young people, it empowers the next generation, um, and empowerment is extremely important. And yeah, so
I That point, sharing the testimonials, I think that will also be an inspiration, because once they hear what someone else did or have done, it
hmm
will be of encouragement to, those who may potentially be on the same path,
right,
because, stories, sometimes can be the most inspiring, and to hear that someone have overcome something that you may be struggling with,
yes,
can be what give you hope, to believe that you can achieve what you are pursuing. So my next question to you is, what are some key steps we need to take to strengthen Black male unity and collaboration? being that that's something that we need to do in our community?
Strengthening Black male unity and collaboration. I would say, you know, networking, again, sharing your the experiences that you've been through professionally, personally, um, attending different events, taking young people with you, um, collaborating with them, attending uh, different health fair events, because that's another area that us Black men need to focus in on is our health. Some of us, unfortunately, won't go to the doctor until they feel that there's something impacting them. So I think that's extremely important. Um, Health fairs, job fairs, community collaborations, community events. Those are some of the steps that we can do to pour into our next generation, and just again, sharing those testimonials. Another area with us Black men is finances, learning how to get your credit in order. I think having good credit is excellent, but if you don't have the tools, and I will share this with you as well, growing up, it's not really talked about a lot in the home. Well, in our home, it wasn't. Finances, nobody really talked about how to balance a checkbook, how to utilize, how to keep money in the bank. I grew up with my great great uncle who had a lockbox under the bed full of cash. But I didn't I didn't realize that it's probably a better idea to put that money in the bank rather than having money under the bed. But he came from a generation where they didn't have a whole lot of confidence in banks. But these days, it's probably better to put it in some sort of money market or something that's going to build wealth for you.
You
So these
know,
are some of the steps that I would take in terms of just pouring back into our younger generation.
well, and it's great that you talk about share networking, sharing
Hmm.
experiences, and even health, and be part of those conversations.
Right.
Because the more we are a part of the conversation around the things that will benefit us, the more we'll start to build those relationship with each other.
Hmm.
Because when I know that we have similar interests, we have similar struggles, we have similar stories, right?
Right.
We tend to, come together more and have a better understanding because I'm over here looking at my life or my experience and thinking, oh, mine is different. But
Hmm.
when we're in the same space, we get to learn that we have similar struggles, similar stories,
Right.
and with those, you know, awareness, we can start to build unity and collaboration, which leads me to my next question,
Okay.
which I wanted to ask about solutions, but we are getting close to the top of the hour, so I'm
Okay.
going to shift a little bit to intentional leadership and legacy. I may be
Okay.
able to ask two questions in that category, but I'm going to ask, what does intentional leadership mean to you, and how do you embody it in your work?
Intentional leadership means to me is ensuring that I have trust, respect. Um, I have compassion with the folks that I am leading. So I think that it's important to lay that foundation with the people that I am leading, to ensure that I've laid the foundation. I've given you these pillars. I've given you examples. I've given you the the bulk of what you need in terms of where I am coming from. In terms of, I think it's important to establish trust. I think it's important to establish respect, and that's just something that gives you that solid foundation, so we can both be on one accord in terms of moving forward. Um, Being able to be a strong leader, you have to exemplify that. And again, the cameras are always on, people are always watching, and you want to ensure that your life your path is something that someone would want to follow. I think that's important because some people may say that they're leaders, but what are you displaying? What are you
Correct.
getting? And we live in a world now where everything is shared, everything is displayed. So we want to ensure that what we're sharing with folks, what we're displaying is aligned with what we want the younger generation to see. So that
Correct.
way they will want to follow you as a leader. So I think that's extremely important.
As you talk about trust, respect, and compassion,
Mm-hmm.
that also help to value the people that a leader is entrusted to serve,
Right.
because developing the trust. But it goes back to what you said earlier in the conversation. What we do should align with what we are saying to those we are entrusted to serve, especially as a leader. Is not to say one thing and do something else. Is
Mm-hmm.
to make sure what we're doing reflects what we're saying reflects what we are doing. I
Mm-hmm.
appreciate that perspective. I'm going to kind of go close to my last question.
Okay.
Um, so, if you could leave one message for young Black men striving for impact, what
Okay.
would it be?
I'm going to go back to what I said earlier. Ensure that your efforts are aligned with your goals. If you are applying and you're putting in the work, ultimately you'll get there. Your journey is your journey. Everybody's journey is different. Um, but some people get it may take them a little bit longer. Some people may get there a little bit sooner. Um, Doctorates programs is a prime example.
Yeah,
Everybody doesn't finish a doctorate in 3 years. Everybody doesn't finish it in 6 years. So everybody's journey is different. And I just
correct.
think that it's important to ensure that your efforts are aligned with your goals. If you're putting in the effort, you'll get there. It may take you a little bit longer, but ultimately you'll get there.
I think that's important and a great reminder,
Hmm.
especially for young Black males who may not have um, all the resources and even all the support, because doing the work, regardless, you could have the resources or the support, you still would have to do the work necessary to achieve the goal that you want. But I appreciate that reminder is so profound. Effort align with goals.
Yes, sir.
That is really profound. It's a great reminder for everyone who are in pursuit of something meaningful. So my final question. Well, before I get to the final question,
Okay.
where can the individuals who are here and want to reach out to you and maybe to hear your story and connect with you and the work that you do, and how can they connect with you?
Okay. My email address is jjssmith _ two, the letter K at yahoo.com. So,
Okay, and I know you are on LinkedIn too, right?
yes, that's a great place to reach out to me as well. Yes, sir.
Okay, I'll definitely put it somewhere in the description so they can connect
Perfect.
with you on LinkedIn, especially
Hmm.
to learn more about the work that you're doing, and just your story, because I believe it's inspiring, and I know it can impact others as well,
Okay.
adults and young people alike. So, what I want to close with, based on our conversation, what is one commitment you can make today to increase your impact and transformation? And you can turn it around. What can the listeners do to increase their impact and transformation?
I think that I think it's always good to do a self-assessment, determine if you are where you want to be professionally in your career. Um, but a self-assessment is always great. If you believe that you are not where you want to be or not where you need to be, um, once you take a real good look at where you are, put in the work, do what you need to do, apply for that job, apply for that uh, undergraduate program, apply for that graduate program. Do what you have to do uh, to get there. And once you do, keep going. If you feel like you've reached a roadblock, call a friend, call a mentor, reach out to them. Because obviously I went through a doctoral program, and there are tons of times that I said, you know what, I'm a man of a certain age. I don't need this. I don't want to go through this. I didn't get my doctorate degree until I was 52.
Oh, wow.
So I was a little older, but I didn't give up. I kept going. I kept applying. I kept moving forward. And I think that's what young people need to hear. Um, when you're ready to quit, remind yourself of why you are going, why you decided to take this route.
I think that is important, and that's a great reminder for us as Black men,
Hmm.
because sometimes we start the journey, things are not happening as fast as we wanted to.
Right.
And, sometimes we end up talking ourselves out of the very thing that we want. But as
Hmm.
you stated, for us to remind ourselves why we started in the first place and why we need to finish what we have started. And I think that's a great way to finish today's conversation. So, Dr. Smith, I
Yes.
can tell you, man, the time went by so fast. But that's what they say when you're having a great conversation. 1 hour seems like 10 minutes. But it was great, to have you on the Black Male Impact today with this series of transformation through intentional impact. Any last thing that you want to say to the listeners?
No, thank you for having me, and thank you for allowing me to share my story and putting it on this platform, telling you a little bit about myself, and so I appreciate the opportunity. Thank you.
Thanks for being here. And the listeners who have been here with us, I really appreciate you being here. Glad for the support. And please continue to support us as we continue to bring guests that we believe will share knowledge, perspectives, and insights that
Mhm.
can benefit all of us as we continue on this journey. Again, the Black Male Impact is where positive changes are inspired. Thanks for your support and looking forward to sharing with you with our next conversation. Thank you.